Welcome back. Now, this is the part of the program, The Big Focus, where we bring you consumer interest stories, where we put your interest first. And today we have taken up the issue of cab aggregators and their policies. Remember, this is the day when Uber has decided to introduce a new feature where now drivers of these cabs will be able to access the destination of the passenger before accepting a booking. Now, this was not earlier available to the drivers. They could not see where a passenger would go. They had to accept a trip, and then on the app, once the booking is accepted and once the passenger actually boards the cab, the driver is able to see where the passenger is going. The idea was to not give the drivers any prerogative of whether they will take a passenger to a certain location or not. So that has changed now. The new upfront destination feature will allow the driver to decide if they want to accept a ride or not. The ride-hailing platform in a statement said that the new feature is aimed at reducing passenger complaints of drivers cancelling their trips at the last moment. Now, interestingly, this comes at a day when Consumer Protection Rights Body has rapped the knuckles of cab hailing services for unfair trade practices. So weeks after the government held a meeting with cab aggregators, Ola, Uber and other services have been warned to improve their services and also respond within 15 days to the multitude of complaints that have accumulated against these cab hailing services. The Consumer Protection Regulator also issued notices to all these services for certain trade practices and violation of consumer rights. The Central Consumer Protection Authority Chief Commissioner Nidhi Khare said that notices have been sent to both Ola and Uber, as most of the consumer complaints received in the last 1 year are related to deficiency in services and certain unfair business practices. So they've been given, like I mentioned, 15 days time to respond. The question we are asking here on The Big Focus is that, is this new feature that firstly Uber has introduced a boon or bane? It comes on a day that the service itself is put on notice, and significantly enough, this new policy, again, many believe, is against the consumer. It is pro-drivers but anti-consumer. We'll talk about that. But the important point here is that Uber has decided to open out the destination details to the drivers. How will that impact you and me? All of that we will bring in the ambit of our discussion today. Let me welcome Shehzad Khan, actor, who joins us here on the program, and Dilip Cherian, founder of Perfect Relations. Very good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. I'm just going to come to you with my questions in just a bit. Before that, I want to play out the interview that my colleague Shonali did with the Uber leadership in India. Let's listen.
Of course, as you said, the driver cancellations has been the recent topic that has come up. From technical aspects, technology standpoint at least, we have identified few features that we can build that can help soften that as such. One of the things, as Mani talked before, is giving upfront which locations driver is actually going to drop off. That helps for the driver to at least not take the trip that they don't want to take in first place, so that they take and then they come and ask you, or they calling you and so forth. Those things can be resolved.
So that's what the Uber management has to say. We are also going to play out for you what people have to say and how they have reacted. But before that, my colleague Charlene will break it down for us. What is this new policy about? Charlene, good evening. Over to you.
That's right, Afrida. As you mentioned in your read, that there are several consumers who've come forward to say that this is a driver-centric change and not a consumer-centric change. Why these allegations have surfaced? Let me quickly take you through the major changes that Uber, in fact, has announced according to their new policy. What the policy was earlier is that the destination is not disclosed to drivers, but according to the changed rule, the destination is disclosed beforehand. So at the time of the booking, when you book from the app, that's instantly when the drivers also get to know the destination where you want to travel. Apart from that, it's also said that the drivers were bound to accept trips earlier, but now drivers can choose to decline. What this means is that earlier, when you booked your ride on the app, the drivers would call you up. They would then ask your destination, and in case if the destination didn't go down well with them, they would cancel the destination or cancel your ride after they called you up. But this is not the case now. Now, the moment you book your cab ride, because the destination is disclosed to them at the very first instance, they have the choice to cancel the destination moment you book and not after they call you. And in the final point, earlier you had the policy where earlier the driver cancellation charges were high, but now last minute cancellation is low. So earlier, definitely this is one benefit, that although the policies have been changed, earlier the cancellation charges were high, but now it is minimized. Of course, this will differ from place to place, and we have to wait and watch how this happens. But as of now, this is the slew of changes that Uber has introduced. Back to you.
Shalin, thank you so much for giving us a clear understanding. So coming to you, Shehzad Khan, this is again an interesting, a kind of policy, because I'm very sure people will be divided. There will be people who will think, yes, the driver's interests also need to be protected. They work very long hours. And what use, if you stake your own safety with somebody who's totally drained out and is not willing to go to a certain location but still forced to do so. On the other side, of course, there'll be people who say that this is against the interest of the passenger. Now, certain locations, congested areas, the Uber drivers will simply not take those rides. So that is likely to leave a lot of people high and dry. Shehzad Khan.
Yeah, good evening. Whatever is happening, whatever I heard from you, it's good that it's happening that way, that the driver should know where he's taking the ride, so that the last moment, the person who has booked the cab doesn't get ditched because he may have to catch a flight, or he may have to go somewhere where it's very important for him to reach on time. Before, yes, we had to call up, or the driver would call up and say, "Kahan jana hai, kidhar?" And then accordingly, they would just ditch the customer. I use Uber and Ola very frequently when, if I have to go to the airport or certain places where there's a lot of parking problems in Mumbai, a lot of parking problems. I prefer to take Uber, so that I don't have to find parking and all that over there. But one thing is very nice, which from this app, which I would like to say, both from Ola and Uber, that they are much more hygienic, and the cars are more cleaner. The drivers are far more way better than what we used to have during, when we had that Kali Pili. The Kali Pilis are still there. We should upgrade them also, because it depends, their livelihood is also important. But coming back to Ola and Uber, they're much more decent. They have etiquettes. If you tell them just 2 minutes ruk jao, they wait. And some are rude at some times. But as speaking for myself, I have not yet, had any bad experience with either Ola or Uber. They've always been nice, kind, courteous, and helpful. Even like we have baggages, and also they get down, they open the trunk, and they help us. They get the trolleys and all. This is my take on that.
The focus that I want to keep is on this issue of whether this policy is pro-consumer or anti-consumer. Dilip Sharon, where do you stand on this?
My sense is that all this is good. This is probably driver-centric. You've seen a lot of drivers probably not coming back to the gig economy. As far as the consumer is concerned, this is going to be a problem. You've reduced the charges for cancellation, so drivers will have a greater option to cancel. And I think that, the fact that consumers must have more choices of more aggregators, because otherwise you'll be stuck in a situation where these companies, because of their other conditions, are not able to get drivers and therefore have to pamper them at the cost of the consumer. So I think this is not a consumer focused move, but we have to see how it works in operational terms. As somebody who uses it, I know this habit of drivers calling up. I know that's not good, but is this the solution? I don't think so. I think that cancellation by drivers has become a rash in all cities, whether it's Delhi or Bangalore or wherever you use it, and that is becoming a problem, and consumers will probably need to find a third alternative. And clearly, what is happening at this point of time is an attempt by these companies to to try and retain as many drivers on their roles as possible. But as far as the consumer is concerned, I think this is going to be a problem as I see it today.
Yes.
But as it rolls out, maybe experiences will be different.
Yes, let's wait and watch. Thank you so much, Dilip Cherian and Shahzad Khan, for joining us this evening with your informed opinion on the issue.